Okay, so we're now recording. Normally what I do for these sessions, I've been using this GoToMeeting for a little while this last semester with Nova, and what I found is if everybody has their microphones on, then we get a lot of background noise and it becomes very irritating because it's very, very sensitive and you begin to hear what everybody else is saying. Um, so um, I'm going to, I think, keep them muted for now, but if you wish to speak, you certainly can. And just let me know and I'll unmute your microphone. You can also type in a message here. If you have a question and you want to speak or a comment, let me know by just typing something and I will unmute your microphone. Actually, I'm going to unmute them all for a second so that you can say hello to each other. So now everybody's microphone is open if you have a microphone that's working. So go ahead and say hello to each other.
Hello.
Hi, this is everyone. Hi, this is Winfrey in West Palm Beach saying hello.
Okay, so now you can see why I don't let everybody talk at the same time. Okay, so I'm just gonna mute everybody for a second, with that, except for myself. And then should you have something to say, you're going to be more than welcome to do that. Okay, so if you were registered in this class early on, you got a letter from me which might have scared you. It actually scared some people into dropping the course because one of the requirements this semester makes it that you need to actually be in a school. And the state of schools these days, at least in South Florida, where I am and where I know many of you are, but not everybody is from South Florida. I do know that as well. But at any rate, I think it's the trend across the country that we have fewer and fewer summer schools in session. So we'll work around that, not to worry. If you were able to do a portion of that assignment prior to the class, fine. And if you weren't, well, we're going to deal with it, not to worry. So what you see on my PowerPoint right now is actually the cover of our textbook. And I know some of you have already emailed me that you've ordered the text and you'll be getting it by early next week, and that's fine. You do need the text for this class. This is a very, very good practical text. And it's recently been updated, and I think that you will find it very, very useful. It might even be something you want to hold on to after this class is over. So let's get started. Hopefully you've already read the syllabus, looked at my introductory video that I placed up there, and hopefully had a chance to navigate a little bit through Blackboard. If you haven't done that or have just recently gotten your access, then you're going to spend the first week really reviewing that as well as going over the material in week one. And I'll be doing that a little bit with you tonight so you can get the idea of how I want you to handle the information. So I know many of you are already teaching. Some of you are even teaching reading already. So some of this will not be new to you, but it's always nice to have what you know reconfirmed for you and to know that you're doing the right thing. So the focus of this course is to familiarize you with those theories that we consider to be research-based. And it should be relevant whether you're at the elementary level or the secondary level. It should be relevant whether you're teaching a subject area or whether you're teaching reading per se. And I know that if you're teaching a subject area, and I know some of you are, you know that one of the things that you will hear over and over again is that all teachers need to be teachers of reading. Really easy to say, not easy to make it happen when most teachers don't take very many reading courses in their preparation, unfortunately. So the other emphasis in this class will be on differentiating instruction. And you know that's been a buzzword for a couple of years now, that's something that we need to do. And again, the theory is, in theory, it's wonderful. In practice, it can be wonderful, but it's not an easy thing to do. But one of our goals in this class is to figure out how can we make differentiated instruction a reality? How can we meet the needs of our students who are from various cultures and have different needs and different learning styles? So we'll be looking a lot at models of that, and then we'll be seeing how we can make this practical and how these can become more than theories that we read about in a textbook, but that we can see the practical application of those things. So my goal in this class is really to keep this very practical for you. You're all practitioners, and all of us have the same goal, and that is that students be more literate, that they be able to read better, comprehend better, so that they can do better in school. It's something we've not done well in the field of education, not in the United States, for sure. So the rationale then follows very closely to that. And again, it tells us that because not everybody is the same, not everybody learns the same, we need to provide multiple options. And you'll see this name here, Tomlinson. Tomlinson is the guru when it comes to differentiating instruction. She really knows her stuff, and she makes a lot of sense when she talks about differentiated instruction. Now, it's also important to know that not everybody provides differentiated instruction in the same way. And we have to look at what our particular situations are. Very much of what we do in schools these days is dictated to us, and there's not always a lot of leeway. But there's always some way to sneak in the good stuff if you really want to, and that's what we're going to be looking at. Yeah, Melanie, I agree. So Melanie, I'm going to turn on I think you have a mic. I'm going to turn on your mic so you don't have to type everything. And why don't you tell us what your administration's perspective is? So you can talk now if you wish.
Thank you. Thank you so much. My administration wants to see small group learning, and that to them is differentiated instruction, which is so frustrating because I feel like I have my hands tied, and this is across the curriculum. They want to see small groups not only in reading, but in mathematics and in our lesson plans in mathematics, and as well in science and social studies and writing. And sometimes for me, differentiation is just giving them options, doing different things, and when I think of differentiated instruction, if you look at gifted, what gifted instruction and curriculum, it's very similar. A lot of what we're reading now, I'm like, wow, that sounds like a gifted classroom. And if you look into those areas, you see, okay, well, this student needs me to do manipulatives. This student needs me to do this or that. And it's not always small groups, but whenever we get those classroom walkthroughs, they want to see us working in the small groups. And sometimes a child just needs that one-to-one. So that's really frustrating because when administrators are looking at that, and that's kind of what they're focusing in on, but that's not necessarily the only or best way to differentiate. It's very frustrating to prove that you're differentiating if that's their perspective. And that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Yeah, no, I agree with you totally. Absolutely. You're so on target. And there are so many different ways to differentiate. And I guess that's one of our challenges. And hopefully, that we can get to administrators as well. It's not an easy task. There are small group instruction is fine, but it's not the be all and end all, and it doesn't work all the time. And you're absolutely right. When we talk about differentiation, a lot of it looks like what we would do for gifted kids, and that's probably the way we should be doing things. But I feel your frustration. I know that's the case. That's what I said. A lot of what we're asked to do, it's frustrating. We can't do what we know is the right thing sometimes because administration is so focused on only one aspect of this. But the more people get educated in this, the more teachers buy into this, maybe we can be the change agents, which is not an easy task, but I think it's one that we have to at least attempt. So I know I do feel your frustration. You know, I've worked with teachers for a long time and be teachers who, you know, were training to be teachers, and they would be so frustrated because we would teach them all about this and how to differentiate, and they'd write the perfect lesson but never really be able to use it because they'd go into a school where that just wasn't the way things were done. So hopefully we're making a little headway, but it's, you know, getting people to change what they do in education is a really tough job.
It
We
really
tend to do things the same way, make the same mistakes over and over again. And until we get people to realize that this is a way that we could make a difference, it's going to be tough. But we're going to start with at least knowing what to do from our own perspectives. Okay, but thanks. And I'm so glad you brought that up. So, and everybody else, really feel free to share. Because again, you're going to, as we see all these great things that we should be doing, you're going to feel some frustration because you can't always do things the way we know we want it to be. Sometimes I used to think if we could just, you know, have a, and it's, you know, you really can't tell people this, but I used to think it, you know, once you close that door, do what you know is the right thing. And then when they walk in, well, you know, snap those fingers and make the other stuff look like it's happening. Of course, that's a dangerous way to go. You don't want to lose your job in the process. So I feel that frustration as well. So what are we going to try to do in this class? Well, we're going to look at differentiation for all kinds of learners. Hopefully we're going to find a way. Maybe we can come up with some ways of differentiating and still making it look like we're dealing with those small groups, okay? And just kind of changing things around a bit. We're obviously going to be, or you're going to be, creating a lesson plan that focuses on differentiated instruction. We're going to look at how we can provide an environment that supports our diverse students. And of course, these days, the other big thing, of course, is incorporating the Common Core. And we're going to look at those standards and what place they have when it comes to reading strategies and lesson planning. Whoops, I went too far. Okay, so we have a group of assignments, and I'm going to go through them with you tonight, but I don't want to get hung up on some of the later ones because I don't want you to become overwhelmed. But you can see that the assignments are spaced throughout our short semester so that the first thing is actually due in week 3. This is week 1. You're going to use this time to get acquainted. Week 2, you can start working on this, but it's not actually due till week 3. Now, I always encourage you, if it's a good week for you and you can get some work done, well, go ahead, of course, get it done. So we're going to be looking at a reading score analysis. I'll look at that with you in a minute. You're going to be doing a DRTA activity, and you're actually going to be, the big thing in this class is creating an instructional unit and then creating a comprehensive management and differentiation plan. You can also see that you get points for participation, and that's for showing up for the chats, and for more than the chats even, it's really your discussion postings. I do know that, you know, I've scheduled a chat for just about every other week this semester. Our next one's going to be on the 13th. I posted them on the discussion board, and we'll make modifications if necessary. And I do know that sometimes you might not be able to be online. People take online courses for the very reason that they can't be in one particular place at one particular time. So I'm flexible with that. But I expect if you can't be online to let me know and to then review the material that I post online as a result, because you're still responsible for knowing what it is that we discuss. So we'll look at these more in a second. I just wanted you, if you're not already, but I'm sure that you must be, this is what NOVA's grading scale looks like. Strangely enough, there is no A-. We go from an A to a B+. And I know that everybody will strive for an A in the class, and hopefully you will get it. Okay. So there's the reason I didn't put much in this PowerPoint, but I will post that after this chat, is because this is so easy for me to share my screen with you now. What I used to have to put in a PowerPoint, I can do exactly from being online. So we started by discussing some of the assignments and just looking at them briefly. So I'm going to click on assignments, and I want to just take a look with you at this first one. So notice the first one is not due until 7/19. I always make assignments due at the end of the week on a Sunday, so that gives you a lot of time to get this done. Now, if you've not done this before, it may seem a little weird, so I'm just gonna click around for you and show you exactly what I expect of you. So this assignment has several parts to it. And you notice that this one is 10 points, and you can look at this little rubric here and see how your score is arrived at. So the first thing that you're going to do is review the nation's report card of reading scores for your state. And this is published by the National Assessment of Educational Progress. So if I click on this, I'm going to open that in a new tab for you. I'm not going to take that survey right now, but you can see what happens is a map of the United States comes up, and so obviously I'm in Florida, so I'm going to click on Florida, and immediately you can see that I can get my reading scores for the different years. I can get the average. I can look at the achievement level. I've got information here as well. I can get in PDF files for the different grade levels, and we're focusing on reading right here. So I can open those up and see what they look like. So there's lots of information just from this table. And when you click on different areas, you're going to get charts, graphs, and whatnot for this. So you're going to, at one point, compare to other states, and you can decide where it is that you want to compare. You're free to pick whatever states you wish, okay? And interesting, they talk about mathematics up here as opposed to reading, and it's interesting to note that Florida was pretty much for fourth grade students, pretty much on target with the rest of the nation. Well, you're going to see if that's the case for reading as well. And it gives us lots of information about demographics of our state, the number of school districts, the number of schools, how much we spend per pupil. So when you click on another state, it's very interesting sometimes to look at that and see what do we spend in Florida versus what does another state spend on their students. So the first part then is you're going to find your state's results, the most recent reading scores for your state. That's easy, okay? Then you're going to use the interactive map and compare your state's result in reading and writing with 3 other states. Now it says last year, but you're going to do the latest that they have on here, okay? So again, if I open this one, and again, I'm not going to take that survey. Notice what I do. You don't have to cover all grades. Pick a grade. And that's a good question, Michelle. Pick a grade and just be consistent then when you're comparing that grade to the other states that you choose. That makes a lot of sense. I'm glad you mentioned it. And notice, by the way, they do this you can either pick grade 4, grade 8, grade 12. Okay, so let's say I decide I want to do grade 4. And then I'm going to click on reading, okay? And then I can decide what else it is that I'm looking at and click on next steps. And if I don't choose something that I need to choose, it will tell me select a student group. So maybe I want to do it by gender, okay? And notice then my most recent year is 2013, so that's what I'm going to have to use. So you're going to have to play with this a little bit to make it make sense. And you can click, you can't really go wrong. So what you're going to do for this part is you're going to look at the demographics and you're going to decide, does that have an effect on the differences in scores? So maybe you decide which of the demographics you're going to look at. It might be how many free and reduced lunches a state gives, because that tells you something about the economy in that state. Well, do you think that affects their scores? Or how much we spend per pupil? Might that affect their scores? So you're going to look at all these different demographics that we have available to us, and you can decide maybe it's pupil teacher ratio, okay? Now, and you can laugh, because if you teach in Florida, you show me the classroom that has a 15:2 ratio, 15.2 ratio, I don't think that's very likely, okay? But you know what happens when you're figuring out how many pupils are in a class, and they take an average, and you have larger classes and a few very small classes, that makes everything look very different than it really is. And that's how they get around those things. So you're going to do that, okay? And it says, let's move this over a little bit. Use graphs and charts if you wish. You can cut and paste from what you get online. You don't have to create the graphs and charts yourself, okay? You can just copy and paste that information. Then the next thing that you're going to do, part 3, is you're going to, the 3 skills in reading for grades 4 and grades 8 are locate and recall, integrate and interpret, critique and evaluate. And again, they give us where we're going to find those. Let me just close out what we're not looking at. And let's open that in a new tab. And here, you're going to look at the different tasks. And you can see here it is, cognitive targets, locate and recall. What do they do? Integrate and interpret, critique and evaluate. So you're going to look at what those are, and you're going to identify them. And I kind of just showed you exactly where they are. Now, knowing how language is developed, you're going to make a hypothesis. How do you think student performance will be based on phonemic awareness, and how does phonics skills affect vocabulary, fluency, comprehension scores? So all these things that we do in early instruction for reading, phonemic awareness, and phonics skills, does this later have an effect on vocabulary, fluency, comprehension? Okay. Now, again, that's just your hypothesis, depending upon what you know and what you believe. Your last part is to discuss how you believe differentiated instruction can help readers of all levels. Now, this is not going to be off the top of your head. By the time you are really doing this assignment, so you shouldn't start this till you've done some reading in your text or looked at some of the information that I've placed in weeks 1 and 2. So once you do that, you're going to have a foundation, and you're going to feel very good being able to talk about differentiated instruction and how you think this might help both the struggling reader and the proficient reader, and how it might improve how they perform on tests. And why are we still so focusing on how students perform on skills-based tests? Because that's how we are all judged these days. And while many of us, myself included, think we do far too much assessment and too little teaching, we still have to be accountable, and we have to answer to the powers that be. So we need to still always pay attention to that. Okay, so you're going to have an introduction. You're going to access the report. You get 1 point for clicking in the right place. And how can you go wrong? I gave you the link. You're going to compare the results of your state with 3 other states. So 4 different points. You choose the grade, 4, 8, or 12. You're going to create that hypothesis. You're going to then discuss how you think differentiated instruction will help. And remember, that's going to come from your reading and from what I share with you. Okay? So there are several parts to this. It's not really very hard. You just need to spend a little time navigating through that website. So it's an interesting place to be. Okay, so that's assignment number 1. Now, just We're not going to go into detail because we're going to do this when we meet next time online together, but just so that you know what's coming. And you might, even have something that you want to use for this, because maybe you've already done a directed thinking activity, reading thinking activity that you absolutely love, and you say, oh, this is great. Okay, so you're going to create a directed reading thinking activity, and excuse me that I don't have a space here. When I copied and pasted, I see some of this came out poorly, and I thought I corrected it. That guides students through the steps of making predictions about a text based on their prior knowledge. So again, you're going to create a lesson plan that uses this DRTA model, which is in our text, which is on Blackboard. You're going to have all this information ahead of time, and your lesson is going to consist of 3 parts: the introduction and the pre-reading, the during reading, and the post-reading. And then everything that you need to do will be broken down into greater detail. And again, we'll discuss this in greater detail the next time, okay? Because we meet on the 13th, and this is not due till the 26th. Then you will be doing an instructional unit. And here you have several parts, as you can see. You're going to demonstrate your knowledge of major theories. Yes, Brenda, I'm gonna take off so you can talk. If you have a mic, if not, you're gonna have to type. But you can.
Okay.
Hi.
Yeah. Hi. My question: if there was a DRTA assignment done for a previous class, can we use that, or would you like us just to use the format and create another subject? I mean, another lesson.
Good question. Well, I'm gonna leave that up to you. Because let's be honest, I won't know if I wasn't your instructor for that other class. I won't have seen that lesson before. What I will ask is that the lesson be meaningful, that it be well done, that it meets all these criteria. So maybe you use that as your framework if it was a lesson you absolutely loved and you thought was stupendous. And also know that just because somebody else loved it doesn't mean that I will love it. So, I'm going to leave that to you. It's a great question. But again, I often don't believe in reinventing the wheel. This does have to be original though. You can't go online and don't go online and Google DRTA lesson and use somebody else's, okay?
Right.
So original. You can certainly draw from things that you find online, and you can use all kinds of materials from things you find online as long as you give credit where credit is due. Okay. So I'm going to leave that to you. If you created the most outstanding thing already and you don't think it can possibly be improved upon, go for it. Okay.
All right.
Make sure that you cover all of these areas. Okay. That you address these 8 parts that have to be part of this lesson. Okay. So again, not terribly hard. It looks like there's a lot of parts, but those are the parts of a DRTA lesson.
Right. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. Okay, so the next assignment, which sounds, August sounds so far away, but it'll be here before you know it, is you're going to create a comprehensive classroom management and differentiation plan. And notice it says all of these things are NCATE assignments, which mean that I have to assess them for you in the assess system. So NOVA takes them very seriously. There are things that you must complete satisfactorily to pass the course. So this just explains what this plan will look like, what's going to be included in the plan. So, I mean, it's really hard it was assignment 3 where you're working. Yes. Assignment 3, good. Thanks, Melanie, so much, because you're right. Assignment 3 actually asks that you look at a class where something like this is being done and comment on it. And, if you had that ability to be able to do that, fine. If not, what we're really going to be able to do is share with each other what we've created and talk about it. If you if you don't have the ability to work with another class, or you haven't seen this done in another class, we're going to kind of work around that, unless you were able to do this prior to the class starting, which I don't know if anybody even really was able to do that, and I didn't expect anybody to be able to. I just wanted to open that up to you. Yeah, because notice on part 8, what they say is, provide an evaluation of the unit and compare with other teaching practices. I love it, Melanie. If you can do that, that's superb. That's wonderful. So if you have access to somebody that you can work with, or if you have done this in the past and you see how other people teach this, or you know you're going to be creating this unit, you can even compare to the things that you know you have to do ordinarily in a regular classroom. And again, if you don't have somebody to discuss it with, we have each other to discuss it with. So, but if you have that access, as Melanie does, that makes life easier for you, obviously, than trying to get together online with somebody from class. But that will be the alternative if we are not able to do it in a different way, because actually you guys can meet in GoToMeeting even without me, believe it or not, and I'll be letting you know how you can do that if necessary. But thank you for bringing that up again. I appreciate it. So we have all the parts, and this is, as I was saying, this is so simple. You know, if you follow along this with these templates, I don't know how you go wrong. And you start yours off with part 1, the learning environment, and you then go through and make sure that you have covered each of these aspects. Pretty hard to go wrong, okay? There's lots of parts. This one is worth 30 points. So knowing that, you want to spend a good amount of time on this one, a good amount of time on assignment 2, and on the directed reading thinking activity, which is worth 20 points. And I don't see my instructional unit points. I'll have to go back and put them there. I had that on the slide though. So, and this first one, which is only worth 10 points. So, and then of course your discussion board rounds us off to 100 total points. So, let me see if I see that. Let me bring that up one more time. Okay, so our first assignment is 10 points. The directed reading thinking activity is 20 points. The instructional unit, and by the way, your directed thinking activity can be part of your instructional unit. Again, you don't have to recreate everything. That's 30 points. The management plan is 30 points, and your participation. So, and if my math is correct, let's hope Nova's math was correct, that's 100 points, and it looks good. Okay. So that's what our assignments look like. Any questions on the assignments? Now, I know that this at first seems like, oh my God, there's so much to do. And there is. So don't leave it all to the end. Make sure that you stay on task, that you get started with the first part, because if you ask me questions before it's due, I'm happy to answer. If you ask me questions after the due date, I'm not so happy with you. You want to get things in on time. Or ahead of time, if that's, works for you. So questions at all about the assignments, and you may not have questions right now. After you go back and look at it, you may say, wait, I don't get this. What am I doing? So you can always ask a question later. So any questions now? And I know I talk quickly, but I'm from New York originally, so that's New Yorkers all talk fast. Okay, so I don't see any questions, so I'm going to move ahead, but you can still feel free to tell me that you were wondering what an acceptable discussion submission would be. Melanie, that's such a good question. Okay. All right, an acceptable discussion submission is one that is intelligent. So let me go to the discussion board. That's what a good question. Okay. And then Brenda, I'm going to come back to you in a second. All right, notice on the discussion board, you are required to post every week an entry related to the general topic of the week and one response to somebody else's. Okay? Now, I sometimes chime in and sometimes I don't. But what I do is read everything. Obviously, meet and greet was really easy, wasn't it? Okay? So, but for discussion one, what makes literacy in the 21st century unique in comparison to reading and writing expected of previous generations? So, does this have to come off the top of your head? No, what I expect this to be generated from is from what you read. All of these discussion questions are tied into our text. So can you quote something from the text or from some of the material that I gave you online? Can you use a source? I like to say breadth and depth. Now, look, you're not writing a dissertation, okay? And this does not have to be pages and pages long because nobody wants to read it and it becomes not all that meaningful. So you're trying to capture something that's important. When you can include your own experience, okay, that's always helpful. And sometimes I ask for that, as well as you can see in week 2. If you taught elementary school and you have some experience with this, tell us. And even if you haven't taught elementary school. So I tried to pick for discussion questions what I thought were the most practical items. Now, when you respond to somebody, don't just say, great post, okay? That's not a meaningful response. So I expect you, again, to respond either with a question or an affirmation, yeah, I agree with you, or no, or I was thinking this instead. Something that shows me that there's some thought involved. Does that answer your question, or am I being too vague? Okay, good. All right, Brenda, what's your question? Wait, let me undo your thing if you want to talk. Go.
Okay, my question is, if we turn assignments in early, will you be able to look over them and provide feedback before they actually due, or you just want us to, will that just be, the assignment as it's turned in?
Well, that's always a good question. And it varies. I will tell you that I think on the lesson plan and on the instructional unit, the answer to that is yes. I will. If you turn it in a day early though, and I don't have time to give you meaningful feedback, and then you don't have time to really make good corrections. Yeah. What I don't want to be your proofreader. I think that you're already professionals, you're graduate students, some of you are going to want to get doctorates. Many of you have years of experience in teaching. So to be honest with you, when I get a paper that is filled with typos or poor grammar, I'm somewhat appalled. Maybe that comes from me starting out as an English teacher originally, but I know this. I know that as a teacher, you communicate with parents, you communicate with administrators, and if you want to be taken seriously, you need to express yourself in an intelligent way, and I need to know that you have proofread your work. Now, I know we all make little mistakes. I make mistakes. We all make mistakes. But I want to know that those mistakes are minimal and they're not grammatical mistakes. That just kind of makes me cringe. And if it's clearly a spelling mistake or a misuse of a word, I kind of just want to cry, to be honest, because how will education ever get better if we put teachers in front of a room who aren't literate themselves? So, however, suppose you do something and it's just not, it's not on target. Yeah, I'm happy to tell you that. Or if I think that something can be expanded upon, I won't rewrite it for you. I won't redo it for you. I will tell you if you are on the right track. So maybe you want to send me a portion of something and say, is this what you had in mind? Okay. Now for the first assignment, it's just a matter of looking at charts and graphs. If there's something you don't understand and you need me to talk to you, I'm happy to talk to you individually and try to talk you through the assignment the best that I can, but I want you to explore that on your own. I've tried it both ways, to be honest, Brenda. I've done classes where, yeah, I let everybody turn things in and I give them feedback. And then I sometimes get frustrated because what I get back is not any better than what they did the first time and they don't get it. So,
Right.
But
Okay.
anyway, if you turn it in early, I'll give you my opinion. And we'll go from there. If it seems ludicrous, because then I'll let you know that too. But
Okay, sounds good.
okay, and especially when you don't understand what you're doing, you need to let me know. And don't wait till the last minute. Obviously, the day before something's due is no time to say to me, "Oh, can you look this over?" Because that's unfair to me and it's unfair to you because you can't make the changes if I say what you've done is not adequate. Okay, so let's move on and let's take a look at week 1. Notice I have everything in weeks for you. So this is week 1. And what will happen is, because this was week 1, I didn't post a video, but you will find that before the 6th, what will pop up in your announcement section is a video that will guide you through week 2, the same way that I'm going to guide you through week 1 now. I'm going to do it a little more quickly now, but you'll see that there are videos for every time that we don't have a chat. And sometimes if something needs explanation, I'll put up a video even if we are having a chat, okay? So every week, if you've had a chance to look at this, you'll see is really arranged in the same way. You have an overview of the chapters, and I tell you what each chapter is about. And this might sound a little stuffy when you read these overviews, but trust me, the chapters are really readable. And I'm not just making that up, okay? So what I really try to do for you is put the objectives so that, again, this is the way I study if I'm taking a course. I like to know what it is I'm supposed to know when I'm finished. Otherwise, I might read, close the book and say, huh? Just like our students do. What was that about? Because we're really no different than they are sometimes, right? So if I look at this ahead of time, I know that I am reading for. I want to know the difference between the cognitive, to be able to explain the cognitive and constructivist view of reading. I want to understand what the active process of reading is, what constructivism is, and how it influences us, and so forth, each of these things. And notice here, it gets into what the first discussion topic was about. Literacy in the 21st century is very, very different, right? Literacy, one of the things, and I don't know if you know this, as a reading person, you should all be familiar with the International Reading Association. But you should also know that the International Reading Association changed their name in this past year. It is now the International Literacy Association. And they did that to keep pace with the times, because literacy is more than just being able to read a book. It's being able to read what you find online. It's being able to navigate through a website. It's knowing how to Google. It's knowing what sources are good online and what sources are not good online. There even adults, there's too many people who believe because I found it online, it must be true. Well, we should probably take the total opposite of that. We better be careful. It's very likely not true if we found it online. It's like I've had college students use Wikipedia as a reference. Now you'll know never to do that. Because does anybody know why I say you shouldn't use Wikipedia as a reference? Anybody? I'm gonna unmute your mic if you.
It's not a credible source.
Good for you. Why isn't it credible?
It is not university.
Yeah, exactly. Right, Christian, absolutely. All right. Anybody, when you go to Wikipedia, anybody can make a change. Anybody can edit Wikipedia. How scary is that? That somebody can go online, type something in there, change something, and that's what we're reading. So some people really, don't realize that or don't pay attention to that. So that's all part of being literate in today's world. So we want to pay attention to all these other new aspects of literacy that didn't exist in the past. And, and you can't ignore social media, and you can't ignore any of these things, because this is the world our students live in. You might not get a student to read a book, but you might get them to read something on Facebook. Okay, and we have to be careful with all those things. Of course, there's a lot of dangers in social media, but these are the kinds of things we need to be teaching as well. Okay, so then you're going to look at the history of reading in the United States, how it's changed and how it's really not changed, what the effective instruction is, what the principles are that have emerged, and what's the difference, this is interesting, between practice and instruction. Okay, and we need to be able to differentiate between those two. And then, of course, I love this. What makes an outstanding teacher? What makes an outstanding school? Okay. And hopefully we'll get to look at what those are and get some ideas. So every week, I've given you a PowerPoint. Now, the PowerPoints are directly from our text, but they will help you to navigate the text. But, I almost hesitated to put them up because, trust me, the PowerPoint does not take the place of the text. Just like reading these objectives for the chapter doesn't take the place of reading. It just doesn't work. Notice one of the things here is what we're doing for our first assignment. How is your state doing? And if you click on this, it takes you to where we were for our first assignment. I try to put some of my PowerPoints in these little slide shares for you to make it a little easier, so you don't have to, you don't have to open them up. You can just click through them. So this is a really nice one on differentiation, at least I think it is. And I'm not going to go through it with you. I want you to go through it. I want you to tell me later what you think of it and if you agree or not. Okay. Notice I've quoted Tomlinson in there. And there's lots of good things for you. Then I tried to give you some websites. So if you see this symbol here, you know I'm giving you a website. Just a little hint. When you're navigating Blackboard the way I am now, it's better if you right-click, open up in a new tab, and I'm right-clicking because I'm working on a Mac and not a PC, so your PC might be different. It's been so long since I worked on a PC, I don't want to tell you exactly. But notice I've opened up to the website. And again, one of my favorite sites of all times, Reading Rockets. If you don't have a subscription, and it's free, absolutely free. I only give you free stuff. So if you're not subscribed to Reading Rockets, you need to be doing so. Every teacher should be getting this in your email on a weekly basis. They have the best stuff. So you're going to read this short article. Notice my friend here, Carol Ann Tomlinson. She talks to you about differentiation. Notice, short, sweet, to the point, really, really good. Okay. Some people then comment. You can if you wish. I'll think very highly of you if you do. And, if you don't want to add your name and you want to be anonymous, let me know that you posted so I can be proud of you. Anyway, so you get lots of information here from that. I'm going to just close that out for a second. And then this one, by the way, is a video. And I've placed them in here for you. These all go to YouTube. Notice there is a playlist, okay? But I've placed every video that has to do with differentiated instruction here. Now, do I want you to watch all 23? No, I do not. I want you to look at the playlist, and I want you to look down and decide where's your interest? Would it be on differentiating vocabulary instruction? Would it be on reciprocal teaching? Maybe you'll have time. These are all short. So maybe you'll watch more than one, but I expect you to each watch at least one or two. So these all have to do with good instruction and differentiating instruction. You want to focus on the ones that really focus on differentiated strategies. Now, when you watch these, you can make them bigger. And you can, so if I was to just click on good instruction, notice you can see it's YouTube. So I can make it the full screen.
There's one more thing you need to know.
and do that. So I've just made life a little easier for you for finding these things for you, okay? Again, another website that I think is excellent. Let me open that for you for a second. And this one is called Differentiation Central. Now, this is sponsored by UVA, University of Virginia, which has one of the finest education schools in the United States. And lo and behold, guess where Carol Tomlinson teaches? Yes, in the School of Education at the University of Virginia. So they have a whole thing on differentiated instruction. That's how committed they are in this state for getting this job done. So on this website are some wonderful videos, some interviews, some articles, all things that maybe will help you going forward, okay? So it's a pretty impressive website, I think. I put this here because I thought this was just a very neat thing, and many of you probably know methods for helping kids choose the right books that are just right, and this is a very short selection from Reading Rockets with the 5-finger rule, and I think it's just a good thing to share with parents or kids on knowing how to find that word. And then they give some nice suggestions as well. Okay. I also have a little video on the same topic. Okay. So, and again, there are more videos on here. There's a couple. And some different ideas, teaching vocabulary with digital cameras. So ideas for getting you thinking about teaching reading and literacy, perhaps going in a different direction than you might have been familiar with. So that's week 1. When you go to week 2, remember, I'm going to guide you through it next week. But even me guiding you through it, that doesn't mean that you have, that's it. Like, I've gone through this really quickly. You need to go back through this very slowly, open up the PowerPoints, think about it, do your reading, and so forth before you do your posting or get started on your assignments. Then, one of the next things I wanted to call your attention to, after I sent out this website, the Blackboard originally, I added a new source, and it's called Web Resources. So what I would like you to do in this area with me is I have put up some of my favorites, okay? And I'm going to share them with you, and then I'm going to let you go because I know you're probably tired and hungry and wanting to get on to other things in this world. But I'm going to share with you some of my favorite things, because you might go through your whole lifetime and never find these things, or maybe there are things you're already using. And then I'm always happy to say that I learn a lot of these things from my own students. So if you are using something wonderful or you come across a great resource, please share so I can add it to here, and I'll be happy to give you credit for not numerical credit with, like thank you for sharing kind of credit. So, but anyway, let me just quickly go through these. And again, I want you to go back to this page and play a little. So this is Padlet. Is anybody familiar with it? You're either all sleeping or nobody's answering me, and that's fine. Okay, good. So I'm going to first take you to Padlet. So I'm going to open up actually another window and watch. I'm going to type in Padlet, and it goes to my Padlets that I have created. And notice, because once you create a little Padlet, and again, needless to say, this is free, notice it says to me, somebody updated. So you can see when people have updated onto the Padlets that I've posted. So I'm going to go to the one I created for this class. And here we are. Okay, so this is your Padlet. All right, and how could you use this? Well, it tells us this is an internet application, and it's so easy to do. You go to Padlet.com, you create your account, but even without doing that, and you can do this right from our Blackboard. If I clicked on the wrong one. If I go back to our Blackboard page right here and I click, notice, write something. Okay, I could do that. Obviously, that's not really what I want here, but I could also turn on my webcam. Guess what? I'm not doing that right now because I don't want to scare you away at this time of day. And I went to the gym today. No makeup, no hair, so forget it. But anyway, so I'm going to delete that. But I could put a link. I could upload a file. I could have my webcam on. I could put music file on here. I can do absolutely anything at all. So I'm going to delete that one, maybe. It's not working. Yeah, well, I can edit it or hopefully delete it. Yes, okay, remove. All right, so I gave you what Padlet is. And I gave you some ideas. You might use this to do a KWL chart. Think about it. If you have a smart board in your classroom and you put this up and the kids come up and do these kinds of things, cool. I have attachments here with more ideas how to use. You do get a little picture of me. That was on a former trip when I was Machu Picchu. So fun, 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 right? Okay, now I want to share a video with somebody, so I have a video here. All I do is click play, and guess what? It will go to the video, and it will play it for you. And I'm going to go back because I don't what did I do? Anyway, there we go. So I can do this from my whole board here. I have a Padlet tutorial on here, which will teach you how to use this. This is how I learned, okay? And then you just click away. Now, I thought this was pretty cool. This is how one teacher uses Padlet. And why is it not going there? I'm not quite sure. I'm going to have to play with that a little and see what went wrong. But it may be that it's click to enlarge. I'm not going to do that while I'm talking to you. That may not be working anymore. Anything is possible. Okay. Whoops. Didn't mean to give you that in big. Okay. So everything can get bigger so that you can see all the different portions of it. You can customize this and make it look any way that you possibly want. And here, once you do your site, you can create your own, real easy. And you can share it. And the way that I shared it in Blackboard was simply to go to the share and say, a gym selfie, ha ha ha. Yeah, right. Okay, good, great idea. Okay, not really. All right, when I'm looking more suitable, I'll let you see me. Okay, so that's one thing on our web resources. So you can play with that. Think of ways that you can use it. I think there's so many uses for it. I just think it's kind of neat. You could post students' work on there too, and you could send it home. Then I have another thing. I don't know about you, but I always find great websites and then I don't find them afterwards. And I had a zillion million bookmarks and somehow, I don't know, they get cumbersome and I didn't really love it. So I found this thing called Scoop It. And what I love about it is it's a way to publish things. And you could do this with your kids too. So once you create your Scoop It for free, they have a paid one, but I only use free. Then everybody in your class can become a publisher. And they can do their favorite topics. Notice the British spelling of favorite there, not a typo. I copied and pasted from Scoop It. And then you can use this with social networks. It's all real easy to do. So I'm going to open that in a new tab really quickly for you. And notice this takes you to my Scoop It. First thing that I have on here is what is Scoop It, and it explains. Anytime you find something you love on the web, all you do is click and it will create this whole little thing for you. So notice why we need to keep iPads out of the classroom. So doesn't that sound like contrary to everything I've just been talking about? But it's an interesting article from Time Magazine. And so if you wanted to read this, you would, here's my little comment on it from when I read it. You just click and it takes you to it and you can read the story. Now, notice up here, if you look at my, can you see my menu bar as well as everything else on my screen? You worked in an iPad school. How cool. Was that cool? It sounds cool. I'd like to work in an iPad school. Wait, I'm going to unmute you, Christian. How was it, Christian, working in an iPad school?
It was a lot less paperwork, definitely. Grading was a lot easier because all the applications you could use them for grading. But the only thing I didn't like is it got too gimmicky after a while.
Yeah, I bet. Yes. Yeah. Because, and that's really actually what this article talks about, how, technology is great, but it's not the answer to everything. And it doesn't make somebody a reader who's not, and it doesn't solve all of our problems. So everything that I found is on here. And I did this one to do with anything to do with teachers. Okay. Anything that I thought was interesting for teachers is on here. And you could then do a better job even than I did, because you could subdivide this into particular topics. But you now can, from Blackboard, you can decide to, oops, I keep doing the right thing. You can click on this and you can follow my Scoop It, or you can start your own as well, but you can follow mine as well. I gave you a site called Teachers First. Again, I won't open it. I'll let you do that because I know I'm taking up a lot of your time. Reading Rockets Toolbox. It's a portion of Reading Rockets that's hard to find if you don't know where it is, but it's superb. So I wanted you to have that. My other favorite site, and this is wonderful for differentiated instruction and for getting jealous of what's going on in the rest of the world and not in your world. It's called Edutopia. And Edutopia, very quickly, was created by the man who created Star Wars. And so you can imagine the vision that he has for what our schools should be. It's really, real exciting. Another thing that you might be doing with your kids, WebQuest. So I've got that there for you. Great site, everything you wanted to know about a WebQuest, and it might come in handy when you're creating your unit or your lesson plan. And finally, a thing called Quizlet. And Quizlet is an online learning tool where you can create all kinds of learning for your kids, okay? So I just put one up on looking at the historical context of reading. Guess what? That's in chapter 1 of our text, or chapter 2. So what you do is you create your flashcards and then you can click. That's called balanced literacy. That's number 1. Number 2, there's my definition. Do I know what it is? There it is. Okay, now, I can use this like flashcards, or I can use this in a zillion different ways. Here we go. I have flashcards. I have a learning tool. And that gives me the ability to type in the answer or say, I don't know. And guess what? It tells it for me, but it asks me to copy the answer. I can do this with kids for spelling. Okay, this what I've done on here doesn't make much sense for spelling. It's, you have them type what they hear.
Literacy.
That's too much for a kid to do, obviously. You can do a test, and it creates it for you. How cool is that? How easy is this? Scatter. All I did is take the terms and put in the definitions. This is a game you can do, or you could have a race. So this is really neat. Again, free. Kids can make their own. You can make them for kids. I make them for fun. So anyway, just wanted to introduce you to a couple of things. I'll be adding to this. I hope that you'll have things to share with me as well. And actually, Quizlet is great. Good, thank you. I'm glad you agree with me. So anyway, I am done. I want to welcome you all one more time and thank you for being online. I really do appreciate it. I hope that this will be an interesting, informative, and enlightening semester for you. So thank you. Have a great night. Email me, let me know your concerns, or stay online. Thanks, Michelle. Stay online, ask a question. I'll be here for a few minutes to answer anything you might have. And if you want to talk, I'll undo you. Thanks. When you're ready, you can just sign off, not to worry. I'm going to stop the recording actually now, and then I'll post